At about 350 locations in about 75 countries, unifying on the same weekend, raising money for Tibet. Basically, what I've been sort of dedicating my life to is what I call, or what's now being called, transformational event culture. It takes me all the way back to the 80s. About 40 years now I've been doing events, and then I realized at a young age that the event space is such a profound container for transformation. It's like the very, very ancient container, like indigenous tribes all the way back, coming together at the crossroads of some sort of beautiful place in the middle of nowhere, tribes from all over coming together, sharing, exchanging ideas, different products, music and dance as a sort of a vehicle, as a platform. What I discovered was, because I was part of the sort of what I call the birth of, or the early days of EDM culture, electronic dance music, for those who don't know that one. So it was a crazy time. So in the 80s, Australia was really boring. So I said, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to go to England. I'm going to go to London. It's happening in London. Music's going off. So I dropped out of uni, but you're so smart. What are you doing? I'm like, no, I've got to go and follow my heart, my passion. And that was it. And that was the beginning of the big journey for me. And then what happened was electronic music started coming out. And there was all these warehouses going on with like DJs and music. This electronic music is so cool, but it's missing something. It's missing organic. So then I created a band called Medicine Drum, which became got signed and traveled the world, and then went back to London. And it was the early 90s. EDM culture was still in the warehouses. So we said, let's how can we create a business out of this? It's great. We're losing lots of money. We're just pouring our passion into it. And then it started becoming a business. Electronic music started going into the club. So we created the first ritual theatre dance club, which ended up becoming pretty big. So we ended up touring Japan many times. We went to South Africa, went to South America. And then what happened was there was I saw this sort of tribal, what I call the tribal revival, this rebirth of the sort of old principles of, wow, this is what's been missing in my life. And then, of course, seeing how it was missing in so many people's lives. And that's why I think electronic dance music, which they ended up calling the second summer of love, it was this people coming back together, experiencing this absolute joyful, harmonious experience. And then that sort of broke into more festivals. And, here we are today again. So in the 90s, if you all remember, the naughty 90s, there was the Tibetan movement was really big. Tibet was getting really hammered by China. So I said, well, why don't we, I know all these promoters around the world who are doing, clubs and things and dance parties. Why don't we gather them all together and create a day where we all unify and devote that energy to Tibet. So Earth Dance was born. 1997 was the first one, still going today. And it was pre-internet, so I was sitting at home, fax machine, writing out, here's the how-to. There was two things that you had to do. So it was a charity event in association with the United Nations International Day of Peace. And if you made money, you gave some to the charity, most of it to the charity, and you had to commit to playing one track at the same time around the world, which was synchronized with 12 midnight London time. So every single dance floor synchronized with this prayer for peace. It was a spoken word track. And it was, midnight London, morning in sunrise in the Himalayas. It was like a Saturday in, whatever in Australia. So it was all going on. So then the internet came, and then it just went boom, and we ended up at our peak in the early 2000s. We had about 350 locations in about 75 countries unifying on the same weekend, raising money for Tibet. So we ended up building an orphanage in eastern Tibet and a medical center because there were so many kids that were homeless because their parents were getting taken away or killed. And then we opened it up to the global community to support local charities. So I think just following my calling was my pivotal moment, and then experiencing a whole new world that just blew me up. And that was like, wow, I'm gonna follow that one. So